Greetings all, FerrariMan601 here. Now, I have tried to stay silent on all of this stuff that's going on around the world, particularly in the world of sim racing, because, of course, per result of certain circumstances that some in the YouTube community are calling dat boy, I'm going to call it what it really is: coronavirus, COVID-19, severe acute respiratory syndrome 2, or whatever the hell it is. Go ahead, demonetize me. I don't give a fuck. Anyway, those of you who have been following the sim racing, or big inverted commas, esports, close inverted commas, furor that's been going on over the past, I don't know, month or so, regarding certain drivers such as Kyle Larson and now Daniel Abt, undoubtedly know all about real-world jobs being lost because of people's conduct in sim racing. Now, understandable is all of the push by real-world sanctioning bodies and racing championships to organize some sort of sim racing events because, well, these guys aren't going to work. These guys aren't putting on a show for all of us, and these guys aren't getting paid in many cases. So, okay, let's go ahead and let's just put on some sim racing stuff. We'll stream it on the internet. Some networks even have picked it up in terms of television coverage, so that's a pretty big deal. But, okay, let's just basically pass the time until we can sort this whole situation out and get back to the real stuff. However, with all good intentions come some unintended consequences which have some negative outcomes. In the cases of Kyle Larson and Daniel Abt, well, these are two guys who have lost their jobs because of things that have happened in sim racing. Now, the Kyle Larson situation, that was a little bit more objective in terms of his infraction and then the responses to that infraction. Yeah, he really shouldn't have said what he said. He has a right to say what he said. Undoubtedly, he has a right to say that, and he has a right to use that word, however ignorant it may be. However, and this is the part that people forget, and this is also the part now of this video that most people won't hear because they just clicked off of it because I defended Kyle Larson, his employers also have a right to that free expression. And his employers have a right to say, yeah, by the way, your conduct has to reflect us in a good light, and if it doesn't, we can pull the plug on you at any time. And that's exactly what they did. And undoubtedly, that was a term in Kyle Larson's contract. Applying that situation to Daniel Abt, well, yeah, we're not privy to his contract provisions. Sure, something like this in terms of trying to pull a prank on swapping drivers out in a Formula Re event. Yeah, I'm sure something like that would portray Audi in a bad light, and therefore they probably have a contract provision in there to say, no, you're done. And apparently that's what has happened. However, is this not all a little bit crazy? This is sim racing. It's a video game. It's meant to be for a bit of fun. I mean, I think Formula E were doing their event in the context of raising some sort of money for a charity or something like that. I'm not entirely sure the specifics of that. But whatever the case may be, it's not real. It's supposed to be for a bit of a laugh, really. It's supposed to pass the time until the world can get itself sorted out, you know. However, now we've got two drivers who've lost their jobs because of sim racing. So what does this mean? And really, what does this mean to me? And what does this do in terms of raising some suspicions and or fears on my part in terms of what the future holds for sim racing? For the present moment, we really don't have too many concrete plans on getting real-world racing back up and running. The only series that has actually stood up and said, you know what, we're racing, we'll make some concessions here, but we're racing, go ahead and fuck yourselves, is NASCAR. And I've got to say, that was quite a good move on NASCAR's part. I have suddenly become a NASCAR fan. Good job, NASCAR. Everybody else is still kind of dilly-dallying and kind of beating around the bush and saying, we have to see what the government says and what the actual numbers are going to be in terms of transmission rights. No. So, Formula One, IndyCar, WEC, if you call it WEC, you're wrong. All of these guys are saying, we gotta basically harumph ourselves to death before we can make any concrete plans. Yes, I know Formula One is supposedly gonna get restarted in Austria, and then the plans for the British Grand Prix are still going ahead and all that kind of stuff. Hopefully it happens. But nobody has stood up, aside from NASCAR, and said, yep, we're gonna do this. So there's that as well. But regardless, what does this do in terms of esports or sim racing? What I fear is that these events are going to spur one of two responses. The first response is pretty obvious, that pro drivers and real series are going to say, nope, we're just not going to do this whole e-sport thing, sim racing thing. And perhaps that would be the better option, the better of the two options. Yeah, it's fun to see some of the real world guys try their hand at what we mere mortals do. And yeah, it's pretty cool to see that, hey, the guys that are quick in reality are still the guys that are quick for make believe. But whatever. The second response that I fear, though, is there going to be a push, either by the FIA or some other real world sanctioning body or some real world commercial rights holder, FOM, to start to monopolize sim racing? And to start to monopolize sim racing footage in particular, because, well, we now have a copyright on this stuff. We have a copyright on the coverage of this in terms of TV networks. For example, IndyCar, when they did a couple of events with iRacing, NBC owns the copyright to that sim racing footage now. So would it really be that much of a stretch for somebody like FOM to say, oh, well, we broadcasted this on such and such a date, and your video now looks like this thing that we copyrighted, even though it's not, but it looks even more so like the thing that we broadcasted on such and such a date because it's using the same software. Could you fight that? I couldn't. It would be a lie. It would be false. However, could you conclusively prove? Yes, you could, but do you have the money to conclusively prove that you didn't steal their content? Yeah. These guys have been harassing me a lot, and now I just see more cannon fodder for them to try and shut me down and to shut down other privateer sim racing YouTubers. Because, you know, it's a game at the end of the day. But, yeah, that's basically just my thoughts on all of this. Kyle Larson is a moron. He has a right to be a moron. However, his company or his former company also have a right not to be portrayed as morons, or worse. Daniel Apt, yeah, what he did was silly, but it's silly. And supposedly it was supposed to be some sort of a prank or whatever. That probably would have made really nice PR material for Formula E. But no. Audi had to be all conservative about it, which again is their right to do. But no, Formula E had to be all prim and proper and brown-nosy about it, which of course is also their right to do. They're wrong, but it's their right to do it. So this is where we stand. Two drivers' careers well could be done because of things that happened in sim racing. And it just, in my opinion, starts to open the floodgates potentially in terms of what's going to happen next. In terms of how they try to either monopolize this stuff, if the FOM or some other sanctioning body or commercial rights holder wants to say, oh, we own sim racing now, or if the drivers just in general say, nope, we're not doing this anymore. I really hope that the latter is the ultimate eventuality, but I don't know. I can't discount anything here. So, just some random thoughts for you. I know I probably offended all of you. I'm very happy I did, because that's always my goal. So, until next time, thank you all for listening. FerrariMan601 saying thanks, and of course, we will see you soon.